Hi everyone. So let's continue to discuss on JUnit 5 assertions, and in today's lecture we will discuss about assert not null method. So friends, assertions API provide a static assert not null method. This method helps us in validating that the particular object is not null. So what it means is, this method takes in an actual value and it checks that whether it is null or not. So as the name suggests, assert not null. So if the value provided is actually not null, then the test case will pass. So based on the name of the method, you can think that if we are passing any value to this method and we are asserting that it's not null, then our test case will pass. And if the value provided is null, then the test case will fail. So it is very much opposite of assert null method, which we saw in our previous lectures. Moving ahead. So assert not null method have various overloaded versions of it. So we will discuss the overloaded versions one by one. The first overloaded assert not null method takes in an object and it asserts whether the actual value is not null. The second overloaded method, along with the object, it takes in a string parameter. So the significance of this string parameter is that this method will assert whether the actual value is not null. And in case if the actual value is null, then we know that our test case will fail. So our test case will fail, and whatever the string message we are providing by the second parameter, it will get printed whenever our test case will fail. So the third overloaded method takes in an actual object, and the second parameter is the supplier functional interface. So here you can see this supplier functional interface acts as a message supplier. So what it does is, whenever you pass any value to assert not null, it asserts that whether it is not null or not. So if the value passed to this method is null, then our test case will fail. And if the test case fails, then the supplier functional interface comes into picture and it supplies a message which we have provided here. So these two overloaded methods work exactly the same. But the third overloaded method has one advantage, that this supplier functional interface gets lazily evaluated only when our test case fails. But here, this string message is evaluated every time whether our test case fails or not. So friends, now let's go to Eclipse and see the demonstration of assert not null method. So friends, in our previous lecture, we discussed about assert null method. We saw all the overloaded versions of it. So in this lecture, we will see the demonstration of assert not null. So here, in our test folder, I will be creating one test class by name assert not null demo, and I will be keeping it in the package assert not null. We'll click finish. So friend, this is our test class. Now what I will do, I will just copy all the three assert method which we discussed in the last lecture and will reuse it. So here I will just paste it. So friends, here we will be importing book service and we will import book. So friends, first we will see the demonstration of assert not null method with no message. So I will just change the test name as assert not null with no message. So friends, here you can see we have created the instance of book service and then we have created two books. And using the book service, we have added these two books by using the add book method. And then we are using get book by ID and we are passing an ID as 4. So here you can see that our list of books has ID 1 and 2. And we are calling get book by ID by passing an ID as 4. So here we know that this book ID is not present in our list of books, because list of books contain ID 1 and 2. So if we call get book by ID by passing in value 4, we will get back a null value. So the actual book will be null. And if I call assert not null method, I will just import it from the assertions class. And if I run this test case, so here you can see the test case got failed because assert not null takes in an object and it simply assert whether it is not null or not. So if the provided value is not null, then the test case will pass. And if the provided value is null, then the test case will fail. So here you can see the actual book is null. Therefore the test case got failed with an error as assertion failed error saying that expected not null. And the actual value was null. So the test case got failed. So friend, this was the first overloaded method with no message. Now let's go to our second overloaded method. So assert not null with message. So here scenario is exactly the same which we saw here. So assert not null. So the only difference is we are providing a string message here. So if our test case fails, along with assertion failed error, we will see our customized message that book is null. So if I run this test case, you see the test case failed with an assertion failed error saying that expected not null. And along with this message, there was our customized message saying book is null. So friend, this was the demonstration of second overloaded method. Now let's go to our third overloaded method, which is assert not null with message supplier. So friend, this scenario works exactly what we saw here. So the only difference is this assert not null method, it takes in an actual object, does assert on it and checks whether it is null or not. So if it is null, then our test case will fail. And once the test case fails, the supplier interface comes into picture and this supplier function interface gets lazily evaluated and this string is returned. And once this string is returned, this string is printed in the JUnit console. So if I run this test case, you see it printed exactly the same message which we saw in our second overloaded method, that expected not null with a customized message as book is null. So the only advantage of using this message supplier is this string gets lazily evaluated only when the test case fails. If the test case is passed, this string is not evaluated. So friends, we know that list of books contains only ID 1 and 2. And if I do get book by ID 1 in all of our test case, we know that book with ID 1 is present. Therefore get book by ID will always return a value which is not null. And if we are asserting that not null value, we know that test case should pass. So if I run all the 3 test cases, you see all the 3 test cases got passed. So friends, in this lecture, we saw the demonstration of assert not null method. I hope you like this video. Thanks, have a nice day.